ball, releases, Luanga, Mitre slips away from Evans, got too close to the top side, but he got it away.
Fan, however, have a lot of love for Counties, Manukau Steelers, and a bit of love for Northland as well.
Okay. Hedging your bets there early, good to see before the competition starts. Nice there, brother. Right, so before we start, some housekeeping things. Our website, guys, is all up and running, so check us out, www.weswesnet.com, and also you can follow the Counter Ruck on Twitter and Facebook. So give us a follow and give us a like. Now, before we start, Roger, I wanted to come to you first, brother, because I talked a bit about COVID and the impact. But what's the story with the club rugby scene up here in Auckland? How are we doing with that? I know you're still involved and your kids are involved. Has that been cancelled or?
From what I recall, the latest update, it was scheduled to sort of resume this Saturday in terms of senior rugby. It was going to resume and go straight into taking into consideration who will finish top 8 before the most recent lockdown and go straight into quarterfinals. But since we're still in Tamakima COVID and level 2.5, as of Monday this week, they decided it's going to be a long pre-season now and season's done for 2020. And that's for senior rugby as well, unfortunately.
Okay. So how do you reflect back on the season with Waitemata? Were you up there like the Blues or more closer to the Chiefs side of things?
I think it was more a Manly Sea Eagles sort of scenario. We were just teetering on the top 8 there and thereabouts, and luckily enough, Waitemata were both Prems and reserves were finished 8th before this most recent bout of the lockdown. So they would have gone straight into quarterfinals. Our Prems would have been playing Ponsonby Prems who finished first. So they were in first place at the time. So it would have been them this weekend playing for quarterfinals, and then who knows, going from there to semi-final. But Ponsonby were a strong team right throughout, taking out a lot of the big teams early on. And reserves, which were predominantly made up of our Mammoth Waitemata team, who are senior first champions from last year. So they play in a different grade altogether last year, and they decided to take the step up and try be competitive in the reserves grade. And so they've done really well, for the bulk of them being from Mammoth, to earn that spot and being 8th. And so massive learnings from that team. And I was happy enough to be a part of that for a few games. So unfortunate, season's ended the way it is, but better to be safer than sorry, and keeping everybody safe in relation to what's happening worldwide.
Nice. How about you, Joe? You still lacing up the boots here and there, or?
I definitely tried, but as our resident Chiefs supporter mentioned, Tamakima COVID has stopped their rugby. So, and I was a small part of that, especially in the, I think they call it senior ones, but we knew it as first grade. So it was put to a stop, and like with Premiers and Ponsonby, Waitaki, they were leading, and I think they were undefeated before the second lockdown started. So I guess the champs by default, and we didn't get to play them, but yeah, and it would have been nice, but no, they definitely deserve it. So how does it work with the Prems, Rog? Do the Ponsonby just take the title?
I'm not too sure whether they've done it like that, and I think it's just one of those years. Maybe it does sort of by default go to the team that was ranked first at the time. I'm not too sure, but in reflection, we're looking back at the years when World War II obviously happened during that period. It's sort of similar. Obviously, we're not going to war. We're battling something very different. The global pandemic that is coronavirus. But I think it'll go down in history as to why there was no Gallagher Shield champion, up, at the time. And obviously, we're going to reflect back in years ahead that it was due to the coronavirus pandemic that occurred, causing no championship or any season play to resume. And it was a very disruptive year, but massive learnings, I guess, going forward into next year, because as far as we know, it's going to be around for at least a couple of years, trying to negate this pandemic, or not just us here, but right around the world. And obviously, it's going to affect how international sport, let alone domestic sport's going to be scheduled. So it'll be interesting to see what we saw as a temporary sort of fixture in terms of the Super Aotearoa. Is it going to be a regular thing that where it's going to be limited in that sense, or if we get this sort of bubble going, cross Tasman bubble going with Australia, can we include them in what's been sort of marked down as a possible venture with Australian teams? Who knows? Or could it just be us with the 5 local teams again moving forward next year? But it'll be interesting to see. It's going to change the landscape, and the Blues going to try and chase a championship just out of 5 teams.
I think it's out of 4 teams. There's one team that hasn't really got a chance out of those 5 teams. So, no, but Roger, that's a good point that you make there, because obviously for myself and a lot of the listeners who are rugby fans, you think of the international game, you think of Super Rugby and all the rest of it, but the grassroots of the game as well has been massively impacted, which you guys have just touched on. So disappointing for everyone involved in the club game there. But a couple of things, boys. So we haven't been on the airwaves for a while, and a lot of things happened really in the world of rugby since our last podcast that I wanted us to look at. So firstly, the much anticipated North-South clash happened last weekend, and it lived up to all the hype, I thought, and it was basically bloody awesome. So on the back of that game, the North-South game, Ian Foster, he named his first All Black team for the year, and he's included 7 rookies. So we'll touch on that. Another thing, the NPC. So the NPC, or the Mitre 10 Cup as they call it these days, that starts this weekend, and we'll look at that and get some predictions. But first up, it's Tongan Language Week. So I wanted to acknowledge, our Pacific brothers and look at it from a counter-ruck perspective and talk about who our favourite rugby player of Tongan descent is. So, Rog, mate, I'll give you the first word, mate. Who have you identified as your favourite?
I think growing up in the 90s, you were obviously the superstar of rugby, let alone from the kingdom, Jonah Lomu. But so we can easily touch on him, and he's well revered and still talked about now as the first global superstar in rugby. But there were a few names that popped up during the 90s for me, and Kupu Vanisi was a standout player for Otago during the mid to late 90s. He played 36 games for them, and also for Wellington 1999 through to 2003. He played 45 games, and then he went further afield to play for the Highlanders and Hurricanes after those respective seasons with Otago and Wellington. 23 for the Highlanders and 43 for the Hurricanes. And then he was able to get one match for the All Blacks. It wasn't a test, but it was the All Blacks versus the New Zealand A team in 1999. And so that's sort of capped off his career with that one stint as an All Black. He was All Black 981, but I just remember him terrorising the flanks, and he was such a fit and player, number 7, obviously behind the likes of the Michael Joneses, Josh Cromfelds through the 90s, but I think he held his own to always be considered as a number 1 pick for Otago, Wellington, and moving through to Highlanders. He was considered as somewhat as a mentor when he was at the Hurricanes, because Jerry Collins was coming through, and Rodney Sotialo as well coming through at that time. But I just really loved his play. He was everywhere. He was exciting to watch. He was fast. and the dreadlocks as well. So coming through with Tana Umanga, later on with Ma'anonu, who sort of sported the dreadlock hairstyle. And so he was a standout, not only because he was a Tongan flanker, there wasn't many Pacific Island flankers outside of Michael Jones in that era, but he had dreadlocks as well. So he stood out and he was sort of pleasing to watch, really entertaining player. So Kupu Vanisi for mine, born in Nuku'alofa, Tonga, Mālua Puto.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Not a guy who I would have thought of. I don't really remember his days in the with Otago and the Highlanders. When I think of him, I think of his time with Wellington and with the Hurricanes more. But in New Zealand Day, we revere the 7 jersey, and he was really good. But when we've had Michael Jones and Richie McCaw and Josh Confield and these types of players, man, we just hold them so highly. So he doesn't quite get the credit he deserves, you know? He is a good player.
That's right. And I think he was underestimated because, he could have easily had a few more games. But when you had a guy like Michael Jones, and then you had the Mark Carters that kept him out, who were always vying for that second place or the third sort of string, number 7 in the ABs, Kupu Vanisi to get rewarded with, albeit a match, let alone not a cap. He'll still always be, have that All Black 981 next to him because of that one appearance against the New Zealand A team. So I think it was just reward. Very unfortunate he didn't get more time in the black jersey, but I think he can be proud of his efforts and just a player that I remember fondly of, terrorising opposition through the 90s.
Nice. Old George Smith, another Tongan of descent, 7, and Nili Latu. So they've had quite a few 7s coming through of Tongan descent. So yeah, good shot there, Rog. Who are you thinking of, Joey?
Mate, firstly, I just wanted to give props to Rog on his selection for his favourite Tongan. Kupu Vanisi was definitely an, I guess, underrated 7 internationally as well as the game. And I bet with that Proctor-looking mop that he had, he was good around spillages and quarties. For me, I think of a few names in the 90s and growing up watching TV and watching footy games live, professional footy games as well. And I think of the likes of Easter. I think of, Carl Hoft. I think of Willie Offaingawe. I think of even George Smith in the later years. And, they're all great players and they all could be in my top 5 Tongans of all time. But it's really hard for me as someone from Favona, from schools out South Auckland, to go past Jonah. Jonah, for me, he just, even as a mainstream option, he'd be right up there as one of my top 3 favorite players to watch in the game itself. So Jonah is definitely my favorite Tongan of all time.
Yep, hard to go past that. He really stands out, and like Roger mentioned before, he was that global superstar, and people who weren't really interested in rugby, and people like from countries like the US where rugby isn't a big deal, even they knew who Jonah was. He had billboards of himself in America and all these other stuff. So yeah, I can't help but think about Jonah because how he had those health injuries with his his kidneys. Is that was the issue he had, or liver problems or something like that?
Yeah,
and that just really shot his career down quite quickly. And you can't help but think about what could have been if he didn't have those health problems.
Oh, absolutely.
He would have probably could be the greatest player who's ever laced up a boot. So excellent choice there, mate. Rod, you got anything to add on Jonah? Any thoughts on Jonah?
I just remember you mentioned how people that didn't normally watch rugby, and yet they knew who Jonah Lomu was. In 1995, I was in Bolivia in the middle of South America, and host family that I lived with, they were football crazy. That South America is just football was their number one game, and Bolivia was no different. Yet they knew the number 11, and I remember my host brother just mentioning the number 11 for the All Blacks. You know, it was only because of that he knew about rugby, and that was Jonah Lomu. And because of the '95 World Cup that was happening at the time, and so Jonah Lomu was making headways in the little old country in the middle of South America, who had never really seen rugby, and so yeah, that's how far his reach was just into places that just it was just because of the way he changed the way that game was played by a massive unit. He was able to run fast as well.
Yeah, nice. You still shave the 11 in the old eyebrows there, Rog?
I'm guilty of
Well, you can
Oh,
see
come on.
how he changed that sort of. Not only that, with the style, the headsets that he wore, the headphones.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
It sort of brought in all of that sort of trend-setting features just through that one man. Fast cars, his love for fast cars,
Yes.
fashion, all sorts of fashion, and obviously the hairstyle. And I know you used to sport the Jonah Lumbu hairstyle. You used to have that little fringe part at the front and just put soap in there, Stacey. I remember you putting soap in there when you didn't have
Yeah.
towel just to have it stand up and just try to steer clear of the rain.
Yeah. That's right. Looks good in the sun, but when it's raining, it doesn't work for you, mate. Yeah. Jonah's definitely up there. Yeah, just for me, I'll give a special shout out for Sam Tuitupo, from the Blues. He was one of my favorite players. He wasn't that big, but he could really hit. His timing and his technique was outstanding defensively. And I remember when he first came on the scene, people probably looked at him and thought, "Oh, he's a small guy. I'll try and run over the top of him." And he was just flattening guys twice his size. So also a good Blues player, so I had to give him a shout. But my all-time favorite was Doug Howlett. I remember him as a kid. He was at when he was at Auckland Grammar. I'd heard of him. He was supposed to be this next big thing, and he played for Auckland when he was still in high school. He played NPC for Auckland, and he scored 3 tries on debut in that game.
17-year-old.
Yeah. And basically straight from there, he got picked in Super Rugby straight out of school, and I think he's the youngest player to ever play Super Rugby in New Zealand. And he was just an outstanding player. You hear these stories of childhood prodigies, and we all know someone who could have been someone, and it was the next big thing, and for whatever reason, they didn't kick on. But what I'm proud of Doug is that he fulfilled his potential. He was supposed to be great, and he was great. When he retired, he was the top try scorer in All Black Test history, and he was the top try scorer in Super Rugby when he finished up. So a try scoring machine, but more than that, he had good work ethic and everything. So and a good Blues and Auckland player as well. So that definitely warms the heart for me.
That's awesome. He also had one of the most interesting and coolest nicknames in rugby in his circles anyway. Like those Blues boys, they used to call him TP. TP stood for Total Pro, and it just spoke to the way he was. He was a total professional, never late to anything, or put in the 1%ers, and was always professional towards people on and off the field. So
never late to anything. Maybe I'll check you. Maybe he was an Islander. Nah. No, that's good. Yeah, he was a very professional player, but yeah, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, I think he was one of those wingers that sort of followed the sort of the mold of Jeff Wilson, where he could double up as a fullback and he was good in the air under the high ball. So he sort of was able to become that utility, switching back between winger or fullback, and he was just as comfortable in either. Unfortunately, I do remember the way he finished up, and he wasn't chosen for that fated night in the 2007 World Cup, was it?
I blocked that from my memory. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, but you're
2007, right. And he was ousted because obviously they had they chose was it Joe Rokotoko and Sivi Vatu over
Was that
having Dougie on the wing.
the one that? Was that also the one that Mata didn't make?
Yes, Ma'a wasn't in that World Cup.
Yeah.
And and Doug Hallett was known after that match to be the guy that was on top of vehicles, stomping on the roofs of vehicles, celebrating. Well, was
That's
it
right.
celebrating? And
That's
so
right.
he made headlines for all the wrong reasons after that fated
That's
night.
right.
But yeah, how you could get left out, I can understand why they went with the Fijian brothers. They just said that those two could make something out of nothing. For me,
Oh,
Dougie
mate.
was a safer option. He's just as exciting, and he can create a lot of opportunities out of nothing.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess history will always remember him being left out, and I do remember that coming out, and that was Graham Henry's words that they went with him because they could create something out of nothing. Well, we know how that all worked out.
Well, they were. That was the years of the rotation where they would just chop and change teams all the time. So I think they were thinking, well, Doug, you can play the next match, and then there was no next match. But
that was the year they cotton wooled a lot of senior All Blacks in the Super Rugby season before it.
yes, yeah, that's right.
And there was a
They
big,
did their what is it, bloody conditioning work, and they missed the first half of the season or something.
Yes, that's right. That's
Christian
right.
rotation, yeah.
But I think because I remember they interviewed Doug Howlett afterwards, and the try that they lost, they ended up getting a break down his side. And Doug's Hallett's one of those guys. He's very rarely out of position. He always make very good decision making. So they made a break down that right wing. There was a forward pass in there which Wayne Barnes missed. Which we don't want to go back into that, but that was the thing. The break was
But I
made
can
down his
understand
wing,
that.
and he would have made a difference. So I was like, shit.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know. Stace.
No, we'll
I
never
guess
know.
we'll never
You're right.
know.
We'll never know.
But I can understand why they went with the Joro Kotoko and Sivivatu, because they were exciting players in their own right. They could do things that not your normal player could come up with. So someone's got to miss out, and unfortunately on that night, Dougie was one missing from selection. But yeah, they had a wealth of women.
I think also, given those things, and considering All Blacks were on top of the world at the time, got to still give credit to France. France are well known for bringing whatever French team they bring on the day, right? And they obviously brought the right team that day, and they had a bit of luck with maybe a Barnesy oversight. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
It was a pass from Michalak, eh?
Yeah, it was like
painful. The grey
This is like
jersey,
therapy, man. This is like turning into a therapy session.
Oh, mate.
The grey jersey was put to bed after that, wasn't it?
Michalak, who's the other one? La Maison was another one. Dominici. Those are names that really did us over the years.
Yeah.
But it was just sort of like, we thought that 99 was bad. For me, 99 was worse when France beat us then. But
yeah,
it was just it was another reminder that, man, the French, they're our bogey team. But, obviously they've gone on and they came close. 1 pointer in 2011 where they lost in the final. But their journey to the final, they lost to Tonga. They, and then they just won against Wales, escaped there, and ended up in the final, and then decided to do a V shape against the All Blacks haka, and almost done it with Terry.
I think if you're going to do a V shape, do it the way England did it. Their V shape was a spearhead, eh? Whereas England was an inverted spearhead.
But everyone thought that France were going to get a hiding, more than 50 points to 100 easy just because of their prior results. But then when the French decided to turn it on, 1 point, Tony Woodcock try was enough to seal it for us. But Thierry Dusatoir's try got everybody worried there for a minute.
I was never confident, even though you're right, France was poor, but because I still had the nightmares of 99 and 2007 in the back of my mind. So, France, they played poor, but they've always got that one game where they can play good. Every World Cup, they'll play good.
The general public, the All Black supporters, as confident as AB supporters, from what I saw and heard throughout that World Cup campaign,
yeah,
it was a
yeah,
shoe-in.
I
The
agree.
All Blacks were a shoe-in. So for them to escape by 1 point, yep, we're not going to really dwell on the points or the score there, but they won the World Cup first time since '87, which was led on to doing a back-to-back 4 years later. But yeah, it was a bit of a bogey team for the French, and they still are. They can upset teams at their leisure out of the blue.
Yep. Yeah, good selection, boys, there of Tongan descent players. They've contributed quite a lot for such a small island to rugby, not only in this country but worldwide. So many players that you can think of, like we touched on, George Smith, Charles Piutau, a whole heap, even some of the current guys in there now.
Peter Alatini is another special mention as well.
Yes, Peter
totally.
Alatini. Loved him. He was awesome.
Yeah, he was a good player, and he was in there. He scored a try in that what they call the greatest test
greatest
of all
game.
time. Yeah, the greatest game. So where Jonah sealed it in the end, but Peter Alatini's try leading up. Yeah, memorable moment for him. He was an All Black for a couple of years.
Was it Tana that passed him the ball at the end?
I think it was Alama.
Alama.
Can't remember. Yeah, I think it might have been. It's Tana or Alama. Yeah.
I just remember it was an exciting finish, that try.
Yeah. And like his try was used in show reels for a long time. That one try that he scored, and so I think he was All Black, and he actually had a test for Tonga as well at '95. Oh, Peter Alatini.
He
One
did?
test for Tonga. Yeah, one test for Tonga in '95, and then was selected for the All Blacks in '99 through to 2001.
Oh, well.
So yeah, he finished.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
His time in the black jersey, I just remember him being awesome.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So many good players to choose from, so they're good contributions there, for sure. All right, boys. So the All Black squad got named. Like I said before, they had 7 rookies, so quite a few debutants there. I'll just get your guys' initial thoughts on the squad, Rog, mate. What did you make of the team?
Good team, but can I take you back? Can we go back because we missed the South team versus the North team as well?
Oh yes, okay, yeah. So we'll start there then. So the North-South game. What did you think? What did you think of the game?
I think it was an exciting game. It was great that they had brought that fixture back, because I think given the year that we've had, and for them to be able to slot that particular match in, sort of obviously without crowds, was a bit of a downer, but obviously it couldn't be prevented due to the climate that we're in. But it was just exciting to see a lot of players that get somewhat of a trial match for the ABs. Because that's what it basically ended up being, was a trial match, and for players to put their best foot forward, obviously on the back of Super Rugby Aotearoa, see if they can make a claim backing up their form there, because they were all selected based on that form. I really felt that the NZRU dropped the ball on one selection, and that was Andrew Makalio. So probably not talked about in a lot of circles in relation to that game as a whole, but you know how they had at the training they were representing the first province of origin. So it was the first province that they represented, right? First class rugby. However, they dropped the ball on Andrew Makalio because they had him representing Tasman. Yep, that was the first division team that he represented, but they could have had him in whited upper bush colours, and therefore would have qualified him for the North team as opposed to the South. And so that's where he played for whited upper bush before going across to Tasman, and obviously to the Crusaders. But I felt his inclusion awesome, because I felt he's played really well at Super Rugby, but he's also a try scoring machine, just like Asafo Aumua. He was terrorising Auckland Club Rugby through Grammar Tech way back in 2015, 2014. And out of the same team, Taleni Seal was another one that came and went on to prominence with the Chiefs as well. But, 2 Auckland-based players who have gone further afield. But Andrew Makalio, 10 matches for Wairarapa Bush, and he scored 8 tries in that one season for Wairarapa Bush in 2015. Then went on to 2016 with Tasman. He's played 41 matches since. He's scored 10 tries there, and he's currently with the Crusaders. 43 matches. He's had 5 tries. So obviously he's a bit of a try scoring machine, but and getting a call into the South team behind Cody Taylor is no mean feat. So he's done really well and being able to push his case. But I just felt that they dropped the ball. Ash Dixon deserved his spot, but I reckon had they picked up on that whole Wairarapa Bush incident, then he could have been playing and representing the North, where he probably could have got 20 minutes at the end of that game. But not taking anything away from Ash Dixon, he's played over 100 Super Rugby games for the Hurricanes and the Highlanders, but deserving of a spot. But yeah, very unfortunate to be a part of that, the last 10, 15 minutes for Ash Dixon. Scored a try, controversial try, but a couple of penalties and line out throws.
Is that why you're bringing up this Andrew Makaleo story, because you're blaming Ash Dixon for the loss and you wanted him out of the team?
No. Because before, this was what I wanted to look at before that game sort of happened. But I just remember he stood out to me because I saw him in their training leading up to the North-South game, but he was wearing the Tasman colours. So he wasn't representing Wairarapa Bush. He was representing, because prior to him coming to prominence with the Crusaders franchise, he had gone into Heartland Rugby, and so if they were going to base this province of origin solely on their province that they first represented, it should have been Wairarapa Bush. So I'm thinking, is it the reason why they left them out altogether in the South team because they knew that they had made a mistake there and having him representing Tasman as opposed to Wairarapa Bush? Who knows? Or he just, obviously, I felt sorry for Kirk Eklund as well. He could have included in the North, so, but yeah, unlucky to miss out. But I think he'll be a hooker of the future as well, for hopefully get more opportunities to shine and push his case for AB's honours. But Asafo Almoa, couldn't be more happy to have him included in there with Cody Taylor and the likes of Dane Cole still in and around the mix there as well.
His throwing though, he got caught a little bit from no disrespect, getting caught by Sam Whitelock, who's world class, but I thought that showed maybe some deficiencies in his game.
Yeah,
that he would have to some work ons. I'll just say some work ons.
But I think he makes up enough of it for his open play and the dynamic and the impact that he brings in general play. And obviously, you can see a lot of Kevin Melamu in him as well. But then he's got a very expensive general play where he can lurk out wide and take the ball on the wing, similar to what a younger Dane Coles did. But we do remember Asafo Almoa's showreel from when he first came into the NPC and Super Rugby and was terrorising wingers and keeping them off like a small Jonah unit. But I think you couldn't deny Asafo Almoa a selection in the top 3 hookers after his performances this year, coming back from some serious injuries as well. But I was happy with. I wasn't sure about the Bowden Barrett inclusion in the North team. Yeah, just because he's going abroad. I just thought it was an opportunity for them to bring in someone else. But obviously, Bowden Barrett done well for the Blues. So now the Blues can sort of add him as a All Black that's come from the Blues franchise as well.
And we will add him on.
But
get our numbers up.
But I think it was awesome to see the likes of Tupou Va'ai as well get an inclusion in the North-South team, on the North team, and then obviously move on to, as we know now, to become an All Black selected as a debutant. So hopefully he gets some time, given, and who knows whether we're going to get any Test rugby at all. But for those young fellas, there were 7 new debutants that got named, and Caleb Clark, awesome inclusion there. I think he did well beyond what he needed to do in that game. I think he was already a shoo-in from his performances in Super Aotearoa to be in the All Black, but it just showed even more him and Will Jordan's inclusion. They just couldn't be denied in AB's berth. So it was just a matter of when, let alone. And good to see Rico Ioane get included in the centre pairing as well.
Mm.
I think he's proved his wear, and obviously someone that can back it up on the wings as well. He's still got the speed for a winger, and so he's got some good utility aspects to his game. But he proved his worth as a genuine centre this year. Unfortunate for Braden Enoa, missing out obviously due to injury now. But you've got some good backups in Anton Leonard Brown, Rico Ioane, obviously good choosing there as well. Did George Bridge miss out?
No, he's in.
He's in. Okay, I wasn't sure. I could ramble on about the North-South team. Good to see Kyle Tunukuafe as well come back in. I think had a up and down year because obviously he's continuing with Ofa Tungafasi as well as Hodgman. And so for Hodgman, not even having to play the North-South game, but I think he had done enough. And I think I mentioned him during the Super Aotearoa season.
Yep.
That him and Ofa were exceeding expectations in their general play, and then also just from their core roles as props, they were far above those behind them. Nepolo Lala, great to see him back in there as well.
Nice. What about you, Joey? Have you got any thoughts just on that North-South game first? What did you make of that? And just the AB squad that got named afterwards?
Just trying to see if there's anything that Roger didn't mention.
There's not much left. He said every word.
Look, it was a match. Obviously, not so much the nail biter, but it had a nail biting end, and it was ended quite controversially. But we won't go there. I just think if we're going to have another fixture like that, have a different ref.
Yeah.
But look, they got themselves into that position, and look, to the Sam Whitelock led South team that got the job done in the end, and they obviously
just.
And
that's what was exciting about it. North had it, but then
I'm just glad I didn't put any money on the game. I would have lost money. It was for me. It's naming of the squad. It was nice to see Dalton Papali'i named again. Really good to see, and probably predictable that Will Jordan made the team. I haven't seen enough of Cullen Grace to pass judgment on that, but obviously, when you make the team, there's some level of deserving your spot. Caleb Clark was a nice selection. Obviously, unfortunately, the likes of Mark Telea and a couple of other good wingers throughout the Super Rugby Aotearoa missed out. It would have been really nice to see Mark Telea, but and I thought first half of the Super Rugby Aotearoa, he definitely deserved at least a look. Hoskins Sotutu, I think everyone could agree that it's well earned for him.
Yep.
I haven't seen like Cullen Grace. I haven't seen enough of Quinton Strange. That was a strange selection in my books, but but look, obviously, they see something in him, and hopefully we get to see him justify his spot. In terms of rowers and forwards, all the guys that I thought should have made it. There weren't any omissions there that I thought should have been in there, except for Vaya Fifita. He's one that I would have had in there. We've got Tupou Vai, who's probably covering the same positions, and good on Tupou. He's well deserving as well, and very gracious in receiving that phone call. I think a lot of people have seen the video that's gone out there where he revealed the news to his family and how emotional he got there. So that was nice. Foxy was one of the selectors, wasn't he? Grant Fox.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll just leave that there. I'll leave that there. It's kind of like, you know, these professional rugby players and coaches who aren't allowed to speak ill of referees. So I'll leave that. Foxy, I'm a big fan of yours, Foxy. If you ever listen to our podcasts, and we'll keep it that way as a player.
Yeah.
I reckon an unfortunate guy that missed out. I didn't really observe too much of him during Super Aotearoa, but he had a standout North-South game, and that was Tom Sanders, number 8 for the South team. He was a bit of a raging bull and solid in general play and did his job no different to any other number 8. But and yeah, he had some good signs here, and hopefully, you know, he makes it in the future. But just an observation that he had a bit of a good sort of run, made the most of his opportunities, but unfortunate to miss out.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of the team was picked before
Already,
that
yeah.
North-South game, because I agree. I thought Sanders was one of the best players and one of the best loose forwards that was on show. I mean, it'd be rough to drop Satutu, who has been good all year, at number 8 for someone who played good in that game, even though credit where credit's due. But yeah, I do wonder about that. No love for Bashir. I thought Bashir. I didn't think he was the worst done by, but I thought he's probably the best breakdown guy, turnover guy that we got in the country. There's so many loose forwards, so so many loose forwards that someone was unfortunate to miss out. But I guess the writing was on the wall for Bashir when he got cut from the final North team. So he got left out for. Yeah.
I think he had great Super Aotearoa, and for him to, he got the last 20, 25 minutes in that match, but I think, like you say, team was probably already selected, and he's probably not too far off as well. But you know, you can't sort of frown at the selection of loose forwards that they got. I was really pleased with Akira Ioane's performance in there as well. Showed a lot of maturity, excitement factor. We know that's what his game's all about, excitement and power. But he just showed a lot of maturity. Didn't get too flustered with, you know, what may have been something of a downfall in past matches for Akira in leading up to All Black selections. But I'm really happy for Akira to be named in, you know, the original sort of All Black squad into any campaign, as opposed to coming in as an injury cover or later on. So I think just a personal sort of achievement for him as well.
Yeah,
to
we touched about that as well, Rog, with when Ray was on, and you brought that up with him about Akira, he's always had that potential, eh? He just didn't have the consistency week to week, and it looks like he's found it. So yeah, he deserves his spot. So hopefully he's turned a corner. It's
been a fight for him, because, you know, it wasn't a shoe-in for him to even get a Blues jersey, and so he's taken his opportunities and look where he's ended up. And so it would have been a special moment, not only for their family, but for Akira himself as well.
You know, one guy who I thought was hard done by in the All Black team was Monarchy Selby Ricketts. Not sure if you guys think much about him.
No. I was watching him when he came on, and the only reason why they didn't really talk about. They talk about the Caleb Clarks, you know, being son of a former All Black. Selby Rickett is a son of a former All Black as well, but you know, Cook Island descent, obviously. But his father was Hayden Rickett, and he was a 2-test AB back in the early 80s. And slightly taller than Manaki Selby Rickett. So when he came on, I was thinking, far out. You know, he's obviously within their family, and people closer to Manaki would know his story. But yeah, his father being an All Black, former All Black, but never really, the story's not told or common knowledge, I suppose. But he's still, you know, we brought him up in the Cook Island Language Week, and he was one of the mentions of Cook Island rugby players. So who knows? maybe in the future he could push for a spot. But I think locks are quite well covered with the two Pelotus, Sam Whitelock, and Tupou Va'ai, a new inclusion there. But who knows? Manaki could follow in his father's footsteps, and he's well on his way if he's ever to achieve that.
Yeah, I thought Tupou Va'ai is a bolter, and Quentin Strange, like you said, Joey, that is strange. He was injured for most of the season. He's hardly played. And when he did play, I didn't think he was one of the, that great locks. He's normally sort of a bench or squad guy. So, yeah, Selby Rickett was a guy who I thought was a genuine lock. Has had a good year with the Highlanders.
Yeah.
And he played good in the North-South game. So I just figured, like, with that many lock shortages, he's probably one of the better ones available.
Yeah, he'll be. I think he might get caught in. Who knows, injury cover. But I think if he continues his constant form for next year, he could be. But another one in the Highlanders, Shannon Frizzell. I was happy for him to get a berth in that squad as well, being named.
Yeah, he's back to his best, Frizzell.
Yeah, adding to the loose forwards and the wealth of loose forwards that we have.
Yeah, and then when you talk about these names that of guys who have played good all year, then you sort of think, where do you fit, like Bashir and these guys? Who are you going to take out to put them in? So it is unlucky because there's always some unlucky players who miss out. So yeah, it's just the nature of the depth in New Zealand rugby. But Joy, mate, I'll come to you. I just, like I mentioned, we've got 7 debutants. So Caleb Clark, Hoskins, Tutu, Alex Hodgman, Tupou Va'ai, Quentin Strange, Will Jordan, and Cullen Grace. So of those 7 guys, who do you see really kicking on and being a great All Black? It's probably very early to say. But if there was a test, say, in the next week or so, would you give any of these debutants a start?
Yes. 2 of them, actually.
Oh. Okay.
And look, this is coming from a forward. And forwards, the forwards that were selected, I wouldn't add them in there too soon. My 2 are in the backs. And the first one I think is pretty obvious to a lot of people was Caleb Clark.
Yes.
And then on the other wing, Will Jordan. I think they're both mature enough to just the deep end and do well.
Yeah. What about you, Roger? You've got anyone you would chuck in there? If there was a test match coming up, would you chuck any of these rookies in straight off the bat?
Yeah. Similar to Joey, Caleb Clark, for sure. He's been a standout player and in his position, regardless of age, regardless of inexperience at that level. But he's been a standout, high-intensity performer, for all wingers in Super Aotearoa. So you can't deny him a spot. If there was going to be a test this week, he'd be definitely number 1 on that team sheet. But Will Jordan, I sort of agree with that selection as well. Whether you play him at fullback or wing, George Bridge didn't do anything to not warrant a selection on the wing as well. But I think I'd choose George Bridge over Sevu Reece first. And then Will Jordan could probably be a bench player or start at fullback. He's done enough at Super Rugby to prove that he's good fullback as well. But you got Geordie Barrett, Damien McKenzie to continue with him. Those would be the 2 that would get just similar to Joey.
Yeah, I agree with all that. So when the All Blacks pick their back 3, they normally have a fullback, obviously, and they have a wing fullback hybrid on one side, and then they have a power wing on the other side. Normally, that's the normal makeup of the back 3. Well, Sevu Reece, who's sort of supposed to be the power wing, hasn't been that good. So Caleb Clark, for sure, I'd pick him. I think he's the best at that style of play. He's got more to offer than that, obviously. He's got very good skills and offloads and stuff, and all the rest of it. But just in terms of that, pure finishes, guys who can beat guys quite easily, I think he's better. And I think Sevu Reece hasn't been that good. So Will Jordan, he'd be close, but I'm with you a little bit, Roger. I think that, I don't know if George Bridge, he hasn't played badly enough that I would make a change that quickly. So for me, I'd do 1, maybe 2. Clark for sure, and Will Jordan would be a toss of the coin. But yeah, I'm with you guys. The rest of the guys, they'd probably have to wait a bit longer. That's what normally happens with forwards. They take a bit more time to develop physically and stuff. So, yeah, good call there.
And I'm not superstitious or anything like that. Or, but if being injury free, I reckon Caleb Clark, he could go on to be a great All Black. Go on for years, injury free and everything like that. I think, we're seeing his development and how he's progressed through at such a young age to be the best in your position at his age right now. There's not many players that can say that as a debutant coming in as well. So I think, there's a lot of a special label over Caleb Clark, and obviously he comes from good line sporting pedigree with his family. But I think he's forging his own path, and right from the kickoff in that North-South game, how he could beat players with ease, it was like, geez, the writing's on the wall here. It's just hard to deny him a spot in the All Blacks, let alone not see him progress to become a very good All Black, let alone great.
Nice. Yeah, well, they've got the All Black squad now. They just need to get some All Black matches, and that's one thing we don't know. We don't know what the international landscape looks like and if there's going to be any matches. So what that does mean, though, which we'll look at next, is that some of these All Blacks, or all of them, will be available to play in the Mitre 10 Cup, which is starting this weekend, boys. So, I re-listened to our first episode again, where we previewed Super Rugby. And I was actually really impressed by some of our predictions. Cam's, who's not on, and Joey, you as well, you picked the Crusaders to take it out, which was correct. Cullen Grace, Satutu, Caleb Clark, these are some of the guys that we earmarked as bolters for the All Blacks at the start of the season, and they all got picked. Joey, you also picked Richie Mo'unga to be the standout player, and even though there's no official standout title, he was the unofficial MVP. I think Stuff picked him as their MVP. So very good on the predictions this season, boys. And I remember thinking I should have, taken those tips and gone to the TAB and placed some bets and won us some money off those predictions.
I would have lost a ton of money because I had Chiefs at third.
Oh yeah. Roger, I won't tell you what your picks were, but I'll say most of the guys got the picks pretty good. Just with that, boys. I've opened us up a little TAB account for the Counter RUCK. So I'll try to do like a $10 bet because I feel quite confident that our tips have been mostly good. Not always good, but for the most part, they've been good. So I'll put these $10 bets on, and then hopefully at the end of the year, I can retire with my millions of dollars.
See how they did talk about a possible New Zealand A team as well, or All Black 15 team.
Yes, I remember that.
If COVID wasn't, happening at the moment, I do believe, given that he was selected for the North team, he had some good minutes for the North team. He was, played reasonably well in Super Aotearoa, and he was number 19, Scott Scrafton, and he would be one of those guys who I mentioned that would get a black jersey of some sort. And so he did end up getting a North team black jersey, but I reckon he'd be one to sort of still look out for, given that we're sort of still light on our locking department. We've still got Gregory Retallick to come back. Manaaki Selby Rickett is knocking on the door, but Scott Scrafton can't be too far behind either.
Yeah.
If they're going to include a guy like Quinton Strange.
Yeah, exactly. Paddy Parkinson's another one who I think he would have got picked. He's got, I think, a foot injury, and he's going to miss the whole Mitre 10 Cup, so that's why he was basically unavailable. But boys, the Mitre 10 Cup. So we're gonna be placing our bets every week, like I mentioned. But just get some overall thoughts of the competition. Are you guys excited? Joey, mate, what are your thoughts on the competition? Have you got any just general thoughts before we look at some predictions? Something you really looking forward to seeing?
I think it's going to be good, the early stages anyway, because you've got a few of the ABs allowed to play, and I think Patrick Tupolotu has been omitted from the first Auckland game.
Yes.
But the rest are cleared to play, which is good.
Mm.
So that's interesting to see how they go and whether or not they drop their standards to the level of play of an NPC average NPC player, or keep to those standards that they need to for international preparation.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's one of the things. It's been so long since we watched NPC with the All Blacks, and I'm a bit old school. I remember those old days where Auckland, Canterbury, and all the rest of it. They were sellout games, and Eden Park was packed with 30,000 people, and you were watching, Carlos Spencer marking up against Andrew Murdens and these types of games. So I'm excited about that part of it. What about you, Roger? Anything you're looking forward to in the Mitre 10 Cup?
I think just the inclusion of all the All Blacks that have been named just last Sunday in some of these teams. I didn't realise Patrick has been taken out, but that leaves still another 5 All Blacks in the Auckland team to run out this weekend. So that's we don't see that too often. How long it's going to last into the Mitre 10 Cup, don't know. But at the same time, you've just got to enjoy the times that they are included in the Mitre 10 Cup, because it's been a long time since you have regular All Blacks playing in their provincial colours. So yeah, I think for counties, Manukau having Kieran Reid back. I'm a bit on the fence with the Kieran Reid selection, because it's all they're banding around the giving back to the province where it all started for him. But 34, 35 could have been an opportunity for to block the pathway for someone else that's probably coming through, or they'll be in the development team. And if anything happens to the older statesman of Kieran Reid, then they could easily bring them in. But I can understand the sentiment behind Kieran Reid wanting to give back to his province, having gone to Rosehill College and the Drury Rugby Club there, getting former AB back in there. But having a county sealer, I think it can only be good for the supporters and good for the Mitre 10 to add to all the current All Blacks playing as well.
Yep, I agree. They talked about Sam Whitelock earlier, so he hasn't played for Canterbury since 2010. So 10 years, coming up to 11 years before he last played. So that just goes to show you how sheltered the All Blacks are from playing in this competition, which has really diminished it over the last couple of years. But with these All Blacks coming back, yeah, I'm excited now. But boys, we'll try to get some predictions. So, Rog, mate, who do you think's going to win the whole comp? And if you've got a reason why, that'd be good. So I could don't want to waste my $10 if you've got no legitimate reasons.
Oh, it's a good question. I haven't really looked that far into this Mitre 10, but
Yep.
I'm thinking can be a dark horse. I'm locking the look of Tasman.
Ooh.
Tasman, yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's an old stalwart there. He's got a Super Rugby Championship to his name. He was included in the wider squad for the Crusaders this year. Alex Ainley, he's like the Ruben Thorne. Oh, no, sorry, take that back. He's like the Brad Thorne.
There's a big difference between those two thorns there.
Yeah, that's why I had to,
Yes,
retract there. Retract. And then no, I'm using the right thorn. So he's like, he's probably 38 now, 38, 39, and still
nice.
being able
Still running
to
around.
get a professional contract. So he was included in the Crusaders outfit this year, but he was when the Highlanders won their Super Rugby title, he was part of that campaign. Stalwart with the Highlanders, came in at a late, like well into his 30s, but he's still running around for Tasman. So Alex Ainley, because he's with Tasman, yeah, I'm thinking they've got some good rugby players like Andrew Makalio as well. Ray
He must be one of. Is he your mate again? You love talking about your mates on this podcast. You know Alex Ainley personally, don't you? So Makalio. Makalio's your mate.
I don't know Makalio. I'm just saying Alex Ainley. I'm all for the older statesman then. Yeah, so it's good to see him still running around. Tasman to take it out. They had a really great push for the title a couple of years back, so I'm looking for them to go through. And they didn't have any superstars and the same similar to what the Highlanders are. You know, all sort of local players around the traps, or the players that are not offered contracts from um, their franchise of origin, but they end up landing ones for the Highlanders or Crusaders.
Yeah,
Tasman for mine.
Tasman, that's a good pick actually. They're the defending champions, and they've got a gun team. They've picked up Kieran Fonotia, the Manu Samoa midfielder.
Have they?
Yeah, James Marshall, who played, I think he was with the Hurricanes, and obviously they've picked up Sivu Reese and Mark Talia as well. So they've got some
There it
gun
is.
outside backs.
Oh,
So you look at they've got Sivu Reese, Mark Talia, they've got Will Jordan,
damn.
Lester Whanganuku, and David Havili, all competing for these outside backs. So
Wow.
you might be winning that $10 bet, might be coming on Tasman there, Roger. So that's not a bad shot there. Yeah, Quentin Strange is another guy they got, so maybe he will show why he got picked for the All Blacks. We haven't figured that out yet. But how about you, Joey, mate? Have you got anyone that you've
Well,
like the look of?
Firstly, that's a good pick, Rog. And secondly, can you just clarify one thing for me? I've been watching and meaning to bring this up. Is there a reason why you've got two sets of headphones on?
Because, see, with that one, so this one
One's
sort
for
of,
the mic and the other's for listening.
this
is
one, no, just isolates the sound.
Ah,
Okay,
the noise cancellers.
That's it.
nice.
The
I can
noise
hear you
cancelling
clear.
earmuffs. Okay,
So I
cool.
can hear your mocks a lot clearer. That's all.
Okay, cool. Yes, and I commend you on your selection of Tasman. Flip, you've got some absolute firepower there in the backs. And speaking of, to your point of older statesmen, seems to be a common theme this season for the Mitre 10 Cup because Waikato has Hunger, has counties have got Kieran Reid, Northland have Rennie Ranger back.
Rennie Ranger.
Oh, nice.
Don't
Throwbacks.
Nehemino Skara, hasn't he gone to?
Yes,
He's gone to
and then
Manawatu?
you've got Nehemino Skara at Manawatu, and you've got Nasi Manu back at Otago.
That's it, Nasi Manu, yeah.
All right,
Really
so
done
it's
Highlanders thought.
Yeah, Miss Sims back with Waikato, a couple of other throwbacks. So yeah,
be interesting
Remember,
to see how they go. They're huffing and puffing after 2 minutes like SBW in the NRL.
just further on to that Tasman team, I think they've got Dwayne from Mitre in the Tasman team as well.
Dwayne Polite Val.
That's the one, brother.
Yeah, and boy, that Dwayne.
Yeah, so still looking the goods, playing club rugby, but yeah, doing well to secure contracts in Major League Rugby in America and now
That's right.
Sounds good.
nice. So Joey, mate, did you have someone that you thought might be up there to take it out?
You know what? I think this is going to be a stab in the dark for me because I haven't really looked into the squad deeply. So I'm just going to go with the safe.
The safe one is Auckland. Did you say?
That's my safe call.
Nice. You know,
They're
I'm
looking for another team.
Yeah. Well, we were robbed of Super Rugby title this year, so we'll try and get this one.
When Auckland Rugby's strong, the All Blacks are strong.
Still harping that tune, eh? Still harping that tune.
Yeah, well, Auckland, they have got some good recent form because they won it, 2018, and then they made the semi-finals last year. So they've got the makings of a team. So
And
they
a
have
lot
a
of those
nice.
guys that when they won it in 2018 are still there. You know, a couple of years more mature under their belt of experience. So, and some of them have got All Blacks honours now. So, well, in the squad at least. So, Auckland are looking pretty strong, and it's hard to go by. Auckland sort of doing well in the competition, and who knows, they could very well take it out too.
Oh, another, which reminds me, another Aucklander who the notable omission from the All Black selection was Angus Taubau. Just thought I'd throw that one in there. You're one of your chiefs,
if they're going to pick Quinton Strange and Cullen Grace, who have had long-term injuries, then, Taubau, you can't say, he's injured, But just on Auckland, they've lost Dalton Papali'i, who's a big loss. He's at your place there. He's playing for Counties now.
Good inclusion.
D'Angelo, who was the Manu Samoa first five, he's left. I'm not sure where he's gone, but he's not there anymore. So a couple of guys. They got Simon Hickey back. You guys remember Simon Hickey for his first five, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah, Grammatic, I think. But they've had 2 very good years, so I'm hoping they can build on it. And some new All Blacks like Alex Hodgman and Akita's back in there, so they should be good. Harry Plummer, is he going to be okay? I think he might be the starting first 5 there.
One of your favorites.
Sort of been a bit of a mixed bag.
One of your favorites.
Yeah. I'm going to bring him up in another section, but I don't disagree with that Auckland pick. That 2 very good picks, actually. They were finalists for my one, but I've gone for... Oh, Rog, you've took me around, mate. I'm going to go for Tasman as well. I think I was going to say Canterbury. In my notes, I've got Canterbury. I'm just looking at the Tasman team now, man. I didn't realise when I took to those outside backs, they got Frizzell as well. They've got Tyrell Lomax. They've got the team, man. I was going to say Canterbury, and now I'm changing my mind at the last one. I'm going with you, Roger. I'm just looking at their squad. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful team.
Terrible.
I hope this is a good record because I don't think we've ever agreed on a quick thing.
Yeah, that's true. So they've probably been with it now after that. But I'm jumping on the Tasman board. They've got a strong squad in every position. So Makaleo, as you mentioned, they've got good props of Lomax and Isi Tuongafasi's there. Quinton Strange we talked about. So an All Black lock there for Zell. Good loose forwards. Finley Christie from the Blues. So good halfback Mitch Hunt at first 5. Their starting 15 is going to be mean with Whanutia, Alex Nankivell. They've got a world-class starting 15. I'm not sure how the depth is. If they get a few injuries, they might be in a bit of trouble. But if they can have good luck, that starting 15 or 23 guys can carry them quite a long way. So I'm going to jump on that. And, when you think that they're the champions and they've added Sevu Reece and Mark Talea, who are pretty good, and Whanutia as well, who I quite like, I'm giving them a good shot. So, I'll go with Tasman as well with you, Rog. Last minute change.
Nice.
Although I do have a soft spot for Old Counties Manukau, but I think the Tasman have got the good.
Yep. Okay, boys. So, which team do we think will be relegated from the Premiership, and which team will be promoted from the Championship? So the tournament is split into 7 teams, I believe, 7 in each conference. Let me just see if I can find those teams quickly. So in the Premiership, the top 7, we've got North Harbour, Waikato, Canterbury, Bay of Plenty, Wellington, Auckland, and Tasman. And then the Championship 7 is Northland, Otago, Counties of Manukau, Taranaki, Hawke's Bay, Manawatu, and Southland. So the bottom team from the Premiership will be relegated, and the top team from the Championship will be promoted at the end of the season. So, Roger, mate, have you got any thoughts on who you like for those two? A team to be.
So Tasman's in the Championship, you said?
Tasman's in the Championship. They're in the Premiership. They're the Premiership champions.
Yeah. So who's in the Championship? Who after Manawatu? Who did you say?
After
Northland, Otago, Counties Manukau, Taranaki, Hawke's Bay,
Manawatu and Southland.
Oh, Southland, okay, I reckon I'll go with my favourites there, Counties Manukau, to take out the Championship. Hopefully, Kieran Reid, Dalton Papali'i could add some extra impact there and get them across the line to take out the championship.
Okay, so we started off with the head pick, and now we're back to the heart picks again, Rog. I thought you would have learned up after the first episode. These heart picks never work. Rog.
But obviously,
Fair enough.
That's
Counties?
true.
Counties Monaco.
Yeah,
Dear man.
I'm just trying to pull. Yeah, so they've got picked up Dalton Papali'i, so they've got a strong. They have strong loose forwards. Or Papali'i
Ledger.
and Kieran Reid there, who you mentioned. I'm not sure what the rest of the team looks like, if they're going to be any good. Yeah, they've got Auburn Ledger, who you mentioned. Yeah, but outside of that, I don't know if they've got much else. I don't give them much of a shout. How about you, Joey, mate? Have you got any?
Underestimating the Steelers, eh?
Oh, they've got. They've got one guy. One of Joey's family, Itini Nanai Saturo will be with Counties, so he'll be a player to watch out for.
That's it.
Oh, you just want the relegation team?
The relegation team and the promotion team, if you got one. Oh, who did you have for the relegation? What did you have one?
Relegation from the Premiership?
Yeah.
Will be what? Not what could it be? Tasman, Auckland. Who have I missed out? North Harbour, Waikato,
Canterbury, Bay of Plenty, Wellington, Auckland, Tasman.
Oh, Wellington. Bay of Plenty.
Bay of Plenty.
Relegated. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a pretty ordinary. I think they've got Otiri Black. I'm not sure. I think he's always been there, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, well, Bay of Plenty. Yeah, I don't know if they've got much, to be fair. They've picked up Keno Pepes. He's going to be there now. And Triple T's incoming there.
Was he there?
Yeah,
he's there now. So they've picked up a couple of new guys.
See, he got included in this North team, but never, obviously, didn't get a selection to play on game day. But he come out of nowhere, eh?
Yeah. And I remember Emoni Narawa. So he was a guy that we talked about as well at the start of this preseason with the Blues. He was a standout player for Bay of Plenty last year. And he didn't get the opportunities with the Blues, but it's always one guy who really stands out, and he was one of the guys last year. Unfortunately, didn't happen for him. Yeah, I'm looking at this Bay of Plenty team. They haven't got much. Kurt Clint isn't bad. I don't think they've got a single All Black that I can see here. So yeah, no, actually not a bad call there on Bay of Plenty. Now that I'm looking at it. So Joey, mate, we'll come to you.
Where's Manawatu?
Manawatu, they're in the championship.
They're at the bottom of the North Island.
They're in the championship.
Yeah, so Northland, Otago, Counties, Manukau, Taranaki, Hawke's Bay, Manawatu, and Southland in that championship.
Oh, okay. I'm picking Otago to get promoted.
Yeah, Otago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not a bad shot, Otago.
Because that's where Joshua is playing, right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yep. So I back Joshua to bring them back up. In terms of relegation, who's in the Premiership? Don't name the top teams, just the shit ones.
Auckland.
North Harbour, Waikato are they shit, Bay of Plenty.
Canterbury, Auckland, Wellington, and Tasman.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree with the Bay of Plenty shout of those options.
Yeah, nice. A bit of love for Bay of Plenty and Otago. Yep, not bad there. So Otago, yeah, they've got a pretty ordinary team now that I'm looking at them. Jamie McIntosh,
Sorry,
I'm not sure.
Jamie McIntosh, is he back?
Yes, he's back. So
He's a
you know,
Southland man.
Southland.
He's a
he's
Southland man.
he's in the Otago team now. So
Oh,
Nasi
what a
Manu, as you
turncoat.
guys mentioned. Yeah, but you know, they've got a pretty ordinary forward pack. Liam Coltman's the only real guy that I suppose is close to the All Blacks, but outside of that, that could be their downfall there. So
Is Jimmy Cowan back this season or not?
we might. Oh, nah, I don't think so. He might as well give it a try. You know.
No, I think they'll choose
Can't do
Official Little before him.
anything.
He's a
But
quality
they got
halfback,
some.
though.
Yeah, they got some decent-ish sort of backs. So they got Tompkinson, Michael Collins, who was good for the Highlanders, Jonah Nareke, a couple of other guys.
There's a question. Where's our mate Adam Thompson playing?
He's playing with the Waikato this year.
Oh, is he?
Hey.
I'll get down to watch his games
Adam
then.
Thompson, Liam Misham. So they've got the old
sweet.
stages.
Yeah.
You've got all the old stages there with the for the Mitre Team Cup.
I'll get down and watch their games since those two are playing.
Yeah, because when you mentioned Doug Hallett right at the beginning of our podcast, I was just watching the Munster versus the All Blacks game
I saw that too.
several years ago when Doug Hallett walked forward with Muffy and Rua Tapuki, and they did the haka against the All Blacks. And then the All Black side, it was Liam Missam and Adam Thompson was in there.
Yeah, with his big ass
Yeah.
mop and his big mo.
Yep.
Some good experience to have, you know. So some old faces, some familiar faces that'll be around in the Mitre 10.
Thompson was actually quite a handy player, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was very good. Yeah, boys. Okay, so the team that I think is going to be relegated, I've gone for North Harbour.
Oh, why? Hey, mate, why you got to diss the little brother of the Blues franchise there?
Mate, if it was up to me, I would go to loan and kick them out. Nah.
Oh,
They've got some.
Danny and Joey's favorite player, Parsons, wouldn't be involved.
That's the thing. That Parsons, he's got a long-term injury, so as much as I kind of give him a little bit of stick. I do think he's important because he's a regular. He's a regular, so I think he's important. And they've lost Mark Talia.
Is he going to come back?
I think he's out for the most of the season. I think he'll be back, but he'll miss a big chunk of it. Mark Talia, who we've talked about, he was awesome for the Blues. He's gone to Tasman. And Matt Duffy, he's gone to Japan. So those are three of their sort of better players and three guys who would get regular game time for the Blues at Super Rugby level who aren't going to be there, and they haven't got a lot of place in them. So I think North Harbour is going to be demoted. The team that I think is going to come up is actually Taranaki. Now, they've got the three Barretts, Geordie Barrett, Bowden, and Scott Barrett, which makes a big difference. Two poor guys there who just got picked in the All Blacks. And the Boshiers. Yeah, that's where he is. And the Boshiers, Lachlan and his brother. I think that sort of just pushes them up enough to get possibly promoted.
Yeah, that's not a bad shot. Not a bad shot.
Not if Country's Monaco got anything to do with it.
Not if Josh Ioane's got anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's not as clear cut as some of the other ones, but yeah. We'll see how that turns out. We've got some different picks there, so that's going to be interesting developments. Boys, but how about a standout player of the tournament like we did for the last one? Have you got anyone come to mind for you, Rog?
Standout player. I reckon we're going to see a lot of Tom Sanders. I reckon, given his performance in that North-South game, I think from what he produced there, I think he'll be closely monitored and be definitely on the radar of the APs. If there's an international season, I think he won't be too far being caught in. But I think Josh Ioane as well, another one to look out for in the Mitre 10. I think he's going to be ruining a chance to prove himself of an AB's inclusion. So yeah, he'll be up for that. But I think the biggest one for me, if the Ioane brothers are not required for ABs, seeing Akira Ioane push on and just showing his maturity around his game style and play, especially with the dynamics of that with team, giving them more the best chances of them taking it out as well. But yeah, those are the three that I sort of earmark.
Yeah, good shots there. I like your Tom Sanders one actually, because if he was a North Islander, he wouldn't have even played in that game. We've got so many good loose forwards, but he got an opportunity because I suppose it's not as strong in the South, and he really impressed. So he'll be on the radar of the All Black selectors, and he'll take a lot of confidence out of that he's good enough to play and compete if he gets a call up, which he's got to be close. He's probably only a few injuries away. So yeah, I agree with that call. If he can carry on his form, then it just makes it even more harder for the selectors to ignore his credentials. Good shout on that one. How about you, Joey, mate? Have you got anyone that you could think of for a potential stand-up player?
Yep, just one. Josh Ioane.
Oh, man, he's getting a lot of love on this podcast, man. Josh Ioane? Yeah, nice.
I'm a fan. Like that North-South game at the end, that did it for me. It was crunch time, and he showed his worth.
Yeah, especially with like you touched on this before, Rog, with Bodie leaving next year. They've only got Richie Mo'unga in the All Blacks, so they should have. I would have picked him just so
Because
they can have another first five ready who's got some experience.
I think that's the value of Damien McKenzie, is that they've selected him as an outside back, but they know full well that if push comes to shove, they could have him as an alternative third string first five.
Yeah.
So they know that he can play there, but obviously behind Beauden Barrett, will come him. So Josh Ioane,
That's what Foxy was asked about as well, and his answer was exactly that. Was D-Mac is in the back, he can give the third option, whereas if they chose a third specialist, he wouldn't get any game time behind Richie and Bodie. So
Okay.
yeah.
But he would have got the gears, though. He would have got the gears. So
yeah, the main thing.
So whether you get game time or not, he's missed out on a whole lot of gears.
That's what I mean. Foxy.
Yeah.
He's the first five. He should know better. You can't have these makeshift first fives. Like, no disrespect to D-Mac, but I mean, I look at him as a fullback now. I look at him as a fullback first.
I love how you did that, Stacey. You used his own word on him, makeshift.
Got it out. We don't want to be going back to makeshift competitions, because I think that I won't be able to use it if it's the same next year. It's permanent.
Nice, boys. I tell you who I've looked at is Harry Plummer. I'm going to pick him for stand-up player of the tournament.
I knew you were a secret admirer.
You know what? He struggles at Super Rugby level, but at this level, at NPC level, he is good, man. And Auckland's got a good team, so he'll be surrounded by good players who have good outside backs, good forwards, like we've touched on. The platform is there for him. He just needs to not overplay his hand, and I think he can take Auckland quite deep. So I'm picking him to be the standout player of the tournament. Another guy.
Speaking of Harry Plummer, where's TJ Faiane playing?
Yeah, he's still with Auckland. He's captain of Auckland. Okay. He's captaining Auckland this year, so yep, that's good for him. You got very underrated guys you've mentioned before, Joey. But another guy who I look at who might be a sort of a dark horse for a stand-up player is Fergus Burke. Not sure if he's familiar with Fergus Burke. He's a first five down at Canterbury. So he was part of the team last year, and he was with the Crusaders this year. But he was one of the best junior rugby players in the country, sort of 2-3 years ago.
Oh, so I've been to Queenstown, had a Ferg burger.
Yeah, he's 21 now, so he'll want to really kick on, and I think he'll get a lot of opportunities in a good team. So yeah, Fergus Burke, keep an eye out for him. I think he's going to be good player. All right, so one last category, a rookie or a young player to
Ooh.
sort of keep an eye on. Rog, anyone come to mind for you?
No, I've just been keeping my eye on the older players. So I don't, I don't have a. I guess I haven't looked at the squads to see who the young ones come through. But it's just come to mind. Nico Jones,
Nice.
Auckland.
I also
He's
had
in there,
Nico Jones down. Yeah, he's
on the Watamata Rugby Club. There's only 2 Watamata Rugby Club players in there. You've got Choate, Adrian Choate, who's starting at 7 for Auckland, as well as Nico Jones, our other Watamata player. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to Nico. I've seen him do some serious damage at club rugby, but looking to see him push forward and again creating his own pathway in the Auckland hoops, as they say. So,
wait. So what position was Nico playing for Watamata?
he was playing 7 and 8. Yeah.
Okay,
So
and Andrew Choate was playing what? What was Andrew Choate playing?
He was 7 as well. So he was overseas. He's playing in Bristol. And he's obviously come back. And so he's just slotted in. But yeah, we had a few good loosies, but I think Choate was 7 and Nico at 8. But they obviously alternate.
Yeah, good call on Nico Jones. I also had Nico Jones written down as one of my guys. With Papali'i, he's gone to county, so there's a potential spot there. He would have been the first choice 7 quite comfortably. Papali'i if you're still there, but now with them going, and at Blake Gibson, they've still got who breaks down quite a bit, which is unfortunate for him. But I do think Nico Jones will get some games. And yeah, what was it, last year or the year before? He was probably the most promising young player in the country with what he was doing at St. Peter's. So yeah, shout down Nico
Shout
Jones.
out for Adrian Choate because he was included in the same New Zealand Colts team as Tom Christie, and Tom Christie was the captain and the regular number 7 for the Colts team at the time. And so Adrian Choate's done well to stick in and around the Auckland. Obviously hasn't been able to push on for super honours yet, but overseas has been where he has been the last season or 2. Looking forward to seeing Choate progress. Injuries have sort of hampered him progressing forward. He was injured in a Japanese tournament where he went over with Auckland as well, when he was first included in the Auckland squad, and injured himself in the Japanese pre-season tournament, so that cancelled him out for that season in New Zealand. So yeah, looking forward to seeing he's a very fit and a good specimen of a rugby player, so looking forward to him pushing his best there too.
Nice. Joe, are you still there? Have you got anyone come to mind for you? You gone?
I would say Nico Jones as well.
Yeah.
But I'd also say, I mean, is Narawa rookie enough?
Yeah, I'll call him a rookie enough. He's young. I'll put rookie or just a young player who, so every year there's someone who really, comes on and you think, okay, cool. Now I remember this guy from where, and you can sort of remember when he got really good. So yeah, I'll put him in that category.
Yeah. Another one I would choose. Oh, we're only allowed to choose one, eh?
Yeah, if you got another one, just for our listeners out there, someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so he's with Taranaki, and that's Waisake Naholo's brother, Kenny.
Oh, yes.
Kenny Naholo, the Chiefs boy.
Yeah.
So he'd be one.
Yeah, I think he was with Hamilton Boys, I think. Is it right? That's the basically the top school in New Zealand. I'm sure he's come through that pathway. I think last year, because he played, I think he might have got a handful of games last year, but yeah, good call on that one. Quite like the look of him too. Yeah, I think you guys hit on some good ones there. All right, Karen.
Sorry, there's one more that I had my eye on, which was the guy that played a few games with the Crusaders, Sione Havili.
Oh, yeah. Who's he running with?
He's with Canterbury, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Sione.
Yeah.
He's an Auckland boy actually, but he left for as they do when they don't get enough opportunities in Auckland, they leave for the South Island.
Yeah.
And then they turn into All Blacks later.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I've got a couple here just for anyone who cares, some listeners. Gideon Rampling. I'm not sure if you've heard of Gideon Rampling. He's with Waikato. He's a midfielder, 19. But he was in New Zealand secondary schools last year, and I think he was the man of the match in one of their games and one of the best players in that New Zealand secondary schools. I don't know, what do you call it, a test match? So this is his first taste of NPC. I'm not sure how much game time he'll get because they've got pretty good midfielders there already. But just a name to listen out for. And Anton Senia. Which have you heard of him? He's with Tasman. He's number 8 or number 6. And Segner. So he came over here. He was a German exchange student. And he came over here.
Nelson.
Yes. He got picked for Tasman this year.
I was wondering
He was with
Yeah. He was saying how he wants to be the first German All Black.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I put him up. He came over here as an exchange student and he started playing rugby, and he's got really good at it. He got picked in New Zealand secondary schools, that he was with Nelson. I think Nelson Boys College, and now he's got picked with Tasman, and he that's what he said. You're right, Rog. He said he wanted to be the first German All Black. And that stood out for me. So I just saw his name on the Tasman team. I thought, okay, cool, I'll give him a special mention.
Because I was wondering what had happened to him, because they did a massive, I think he came on 2020 or something as well, and following him through his school, and he was just a superstar at school. But like you say, he was a exchange student.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And
I remember that. He was an exchange student.
Yeah, and he just worked hard. He was just exposed to the game while he was here. So I don't know, did he end up going back to Germany and then come back, or has he stayed on ever since?
Yeah, he stayed on. His year was up, and he was supposed to go home, but he rang his parents and he basically begged them to let him stay for one more year. And he was telling them about rugby, and they were like, "Oh, what the hell is rugby? We don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Nah, I'm really good at it." Yeah, well, he was like, "Nah, I'm really good at it actually, and I think this could be something. So I want to stay." So he pleaded with his parents, and they agreed.
He's quite a big unit, eh?
He's huge. Like, he could potentially be a lock type big, but he's 6 or 8 at the moment. So definitely got to keep it up. That's 6 or 8 position.
Oh, I was 6 or 8.
I don't know how tall he is, but I know he's a beast.
Yeah, I think he was he in and around, or maybe just before Nickel Jones, in that sort of time range. But but yeah, he's blonde, blue-eyed German. But then when he was arguing the fact that he wants to be the first German All Black, I was thinking, haven't we had some players that have German descent as well?
Could be a future podcast, that one. I don't know.
I guess full-blooded German, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting. I always sort of wondered what happened to him after the 2020 documentary.
Yeah, like Johnny Schuster, he's German.
Yeah, they've got German blood in them. So, but I guess first German, I guess Johnny Shu and the like are always going to be referred to as Samoan Kiwis. So yeah, but not that we get that option on the consensus form. That's in the podcast.
Yep. All right, boys. So we've got some good predictions there, boys. We'll put a $10 bet on. We're not sure yet. Maybe Tasman.
Hey.
Yeah, do it this early, and you'll get the mean winnings at the end.
What are they paying?
All right, so if it backfires, you're fired from the podcast. Nah. All right, boys. Have you guys got anything else you want to talk about the Mitre Cup?
If it backfires, you can't host the Rucky.
You get demoted back to fact checker, Rog.
Yeah.
Yeah, boys. Have you guys got anything else you wanted to talk about on the Mitre Cup? Boys,
just shout out to Joe Royal, I see Joe Royal, Ponsonby still out there, being included in the Auckland team as well, Joey.
Yes, Joey
Still
Royal.
running around the traps.
Koro.
Featured from North Harbour to
Bay of
Bay
Plenty.
of Plenty, Counties Manukau,
Counties.
now in Auckland. Saw him, he
Wow.
got his 100 premier match for Ponsonby this year, so just reward for him. And, you know, being a mainstay for the AB Māori team as well in the last few years. But, so yeah, it's good to see his inclusion in there.
He even played for my other old club, Perry.
Patimahoe. Hey?
Yeah, he played for Perry.
Yeah, that's when I saw him out of. Hey. But so I think his brother Mike Royal Mark Royal is still out at Counties Manukau, but in the B team.
Oh, yeah.
So I was surprised that he should be in that top team. But who knows? But yeah, just that's all I got, Stacey.
Nah, nice. Good work, boys. Yeah, that's good. One last thing, boys, I wanted to touch on before we close up. I know we talked about this in some other podcasts, was that Kalanoa. So I just sort of heard that might have fallen through their bid to be part of the Hawaiian bid to be part of was a Major League Rugby. So I'm not sure. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, or does anyone know any of the story
I just
about
saw
what?
that come through today, yeah, and but I'm not too sure what's happened, but I think it was they just fell short of their bid, and not too sure whether they have any chance of reapplying for inclusion in the 2022 season. But from what I'm getting from the posts, it's saying that if they can't meet that sort of threshold of monetary wise in their bid, because of their bid this time, they probably have a lot more to sort of try and get to make 2022 work. Yeah, it was interesting, sort of sad in a way, hearing about that 43, because you can see the potential of what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
The good that would have come out of it. But it was always going to be tough trying to base themselves in Hawaii, and it was all good purpose and intention to try and get it up and running. But yeah, unfortunate that it's not going to get across the line for next season anyway. And hopefully they can better prepare for any future season. But I did see a post from the CEO, Tracy Atinga, saying at the bottom also that if there's any other organisations or rugby competitions that are wanting to talanoa with them in terms of their inclusion in their respective competitions, that for them to get a hold of them. But yeah, just interesting. I'm not too sure how it's all come about, because I think earlier on in the week they said there was a post on social media that they had an exciting news to announce later this week, but it's far from exciting from their point of view, not being able to get an inclusion in the last 2021 as they proposed.
Yeah, I know Sully, who's regular on the podcast, he talked before about the finances that's required. So I know they needed a lot of money and they needed to prove a lot in regards to their financial stability. And I'm wondering if that had a big part to play in why it may have fallen over, because there was quite.
Yeah, just reading what I read today was about even the stadium, Aloha Stadium, that they were trying to get some credit paid forward on it. So, and I think that was sort of giving some sort of indication that they wouldn't have had the monetary backing to go forward for next year. So who knows the ins and outs of it. But just unfortunate that they weren't able to push forward with it.
Yeah. But you, Joy, did you have any thoughts on that, the Kalanoa bid?
Oh, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I did see a post floating about a few days ago. I'm not sure if it was on Facebook or somewhere, but I saw the headline and I thought, oh, okay, I'll just wait and see what transpires from it. But yeah, by all accounts, it sounds like it's not happening this time around. So, I mean, I put it down to a couple of things, actually. Obviously, there's that funding aspect, which is an obvious one, but I think also it didn't help their case to have Bill Beaumont of World Rugby coming out with an idea that he'll help Pacific Island rugby globally, you know, and it was just a verbalization. It wasn't actually a plan. You know, he came, and they've been saying it for over 20 years. So, you know, and feeding us bullshit, and we always fall for it. And again, we've fallen for it. So who knows if they're even going to back those words up. I mean, they always say these things just to get the vote. And then when they get the vote, they pay us lip service again. And that's what they've been doing. So, yeah, I think that didn't help their case. And it didn't help. And it also didn't help their case.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, the infrastructure is the obvious one, but it didn't help their case in terms of gathering support when you have former All Blacks and former professional rugby players backing, you know, the idea that's come from World Rugby, that they're going to help PI rugby in some way, shape, or form, which they've been saying for 20 years.
Yeah, I've heard that before from all these guys who want to be the new, you know, head of the IRB. That's sort of, they're going to help some of the tier 2 nations, and you're right, they never follow through. It is unfortunate with that Illinois bid, because I felt that was another good pathway, you know, for Polynesians to, you know, really get somewhere and get a foothold in the pro
What's
sports.
concerning though, Stacey and Joey, is that when they, in that piece that I mentioned about reaching out to other organisations to get into contact with them, because the statement that the CEO Tracy Artinga is making out is that they already have a roster of players, because it's about including the current roster of players that they have, the database of players that they have in some competition. So that's where I'm sort of concerned. So they already have a roster of players, but now those players, are they contracted, or do they now, they don't, or what happens? What are the clauses in their contract? Because if they're already ready to rock and roll for next season, these players are now out of competition, but don't have a competition to be part of. So, yeah, how does that happen? How does that affect them and those players that they've already put on their roster?
Yeah, good points. Looks like there might be a bit more to the story, because those players that have signed, they haven't got a team now. So
No,
definitely we'll have to keep following that story and bringing more up for our listeners to get hold of. But boys, we'll just get some final thoughts, boys, as we start to close up. Joey, mate, have you got any just final words?
Congratulations in advance to Auckland for winning the premiership this season.
Hey, I might have to change my $10 bet.
Other than that, I mean, look, it's going to be nice to see who the standouts are in the Mitre 10 Cup. Hopefully, every team brings about that excitement that we all grew up with. I don't even know who's got the log of wood right now, as you know, as a province. So it'll be nice to see the log of wood get some traction this season, and get that excitement back, especially the afternoon rugby games on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever. Those are cool games to watch as a family.
Given what we saw in Super Rugby and after the first lot of lockdown, the crowds that came out to support Super Aotearoa was awesome to see the stadiums being full, and it just sort of was sort of reminiscent of the 90s and early 2000s when stadiums were full for NPC, provincial rugby. So it'd be interesting to see the take on, because we've been deprived and it's been a stop-start season of sporting fixtures in Midland Rugby. So it'd be interesting to see how the general public get out to support their local team. And we've always known that provincial rugby is fiercely supported by the different areas around the country. So it'll be good to see even not only the major cities, but the smaller unions as well being right behind their teams and supporting their colours. So yeah, looking forward to getting out to a few games at Eden Park or North Harbour Stadium or wherever is closest to you. But definitely be on the lookout. When Tasman's in town, we'll come to Smanuko, come around.
Yep, nice, boys. Yeah, I think you guys hit on the main points. I'm really looking forward to this Mitre 10 Cup. Is that what it's called now? Yeah, Mitre 10 Cup. Especially now that the All Blacks are there. For me, yeah, like I touched on this before, feels like a throwback to the old days when, the Mitre 10 Cup was awesome, and all the fans were interested. You knew where the log of wood was because I couldn't even answer your question there, Joey, either. People stopped caring when the New Zealand Rugby Union stopped caring about it and started pulling all the top players out of it. And they just basically treated it like third tier rugby, and then that's when the fans started to slowly lose interest. So I know that COVID has been horrible for everyone, but I suppose that that light at the end is that we get to see sort of a throwback to the old days when the All Blacks would play in these matches. So hopefully that brings the fans back like it did with Super Rugby Aotearoa.
It'll be interesting to see with Adi Saweer's being vocal about North-South games becoming a regular fixture and also not only annual but a three match fixture. So who knows what's going to happen, or do they just drop the ball entirely and just don't do another one for another 10-15 years?
They've got to cash it. I know it's hard to fit everything into the calendar, but I'm with Adi, man. Go the 3-game route. I thought that we could get more closer to Origin. I've seen other sports like rugby league has got it perfect with the Origin, but if you look at say the NFL and even the NBA, how they've got the East and West and all the rest of it, it's sort of just basically a glorified training run in a lot of ways. Not
And
to
it
be
doesn't
disrespectful.
have to be like 3 weeks in a row. It could be scattered throughout the super season as well.
Yeah.
One sort of early, one mid, maybe one at the end. I don't know how they work it out in the schedule, but it would be awesome to see to sort of create our own sort of similar to what the rugby league in Australia has with the state of origin. So something that they could really capitalise and evolve into something quite exciting and spectacular as well. But, it could be good.
Yep. Nice there, Rog. Good thoughts there. Right, so that's us. I just wanted to say thanks to all the listeners for joining us for another episode of the Counter Ruck. So the Counter Ruck is available through the usual podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more. So keep listening, and don't forget to click subscribe. Boys, I just want to thank you guys for jumping on the pod and sharing your rugby knowledge. Joey, Rog, Cam's doing the fact checking. Boys, thank you. We'll do it again soon. Cheers, boys.
Kakite.
Thank you.
Aloha, nofua. Aloha, Pito.
From the city of the future.